picked Elise to focus the bottom side with Cocoons. And so Dignitas were watching that series, looking at it, they might be targeting the bottom lane of Phoenix1.
Absolutely could. We saw that Braum absorb so much pain in so many of those team fights against CLG yesterday, so that plan came to fruition with flying colors. But now, they got a whole new challenge to tackle. They got to go up against Team Dignitas, see what they can do here. Again, we talked about how close these teams are in the standings. We kind of talked about how much each single individual game means. 6-5 compared to 4-6 in terms of the records on these guys. Phoenix1 currently tied for 4th. Dignitas currently tied for 7th. That's 3 different spots on the standing from just a couple of games. So this one could really make a big impact one way or the other.
Yep, season ends right now. Dignitas aren't actually in playoffs. But you see how close that match record is. Phoenix1, if they lose this match, they're done for the week, and Dignitas could still go on and have a 6-6 record and match Phoenix1 by the end of this week.
That is true. For Phoenix1, considering they played yesterday, you only do 2 a week. So that means their last one is right now, but Dignitas still going to be playing again tomorrow. The bans are starting off, though, with Graves and Malzahar targeted by P1. Dignitas going to respond by removing Varus and that Olaf from play. Dignitas realizing what you do against Meteos.
Yeah, I don't think Meteos is ever going to get this champion again. He's actually so good at realizing when he needs to use the Ragnarok, even if it's just for damage. He doesn't care so much about breaking CC or anything like that, or countering it. He's like, if I kill them, it's a better CC than they could ever use on me. So he's popping it for the extra damage and just running straight at people's faces, and it's been working out.
Renekton, the final ban on the side of Phoenix1. LeBlanc, the final ban on the side of Dignitas. Still plenty of very powerful, very potent picks up for grabs. We'll have to see what these guys want to prioritize and focus on here early in the draft, and it looks like the jungle is the thought from Phoenix1. Going to go ahead and lock in that Elise for Meteos.
Yeah, they ban away the Graves themselves, so you don't want to first pick it as Phoenix1, and Team Dignitas end up banning the Olaf, so Elise seems to be the thing that's... nice troll.
I was going to say, is this trying to just trigger Phoenix1 a little bit with the Huhi and Soul?
A little flashback there, but the Elise for Meteos, comfort champion for him. He's played it for years, and so that's definitely what he wants to have confidence on. It's just something that he's very comfortable with.
And we kind of talked about Meteos yesterday saying, look, he might not be super up to date on the high-end mechanics, on those high skill level, micro level champions that we're talking about these days, like the Graves and things like that. But the man still has a phenomenal understanding of the game. He still knows League of Legends. He knows how to be in certain places. He knows certain cues to take to say, look, this is going to be a good opportunity. This one is going to be bad. The game sense is still all there. So as long as you've got him in a comfortable micro position, the macro can start to shine. They're going to be picking up Jhin and Lee Sin on the side of Dignitas first rotation through.
Yep. Lee Sin into Elise, a classic, a throwback there. 2 junglers that never seem to actually get pushed completely out of the meta, and if they do, it's for like a few weeks and then they come back. It's comfort though for Chaser. Korean jungler coming over here, definitely very adept at the Lee Sin. We'll see what he's able to do, because I think Chaser had a standout week last week, as well as Keane. And they were big in terms of stepping up, because what Chaser did was he actually innovated some jungle pathing that gave him a 2-minute and 31-second gank, level 3 on the top side of the map for Ssumday, which actually helped them so much to get off the ground and take down FlyQuest.
And we know what Ssumday can do if he's given a lead. We've seen this guy just be the shining star for Dignitas in the past. We've actually criticized the team for saying he's the only shining star on Dignitas, but recently they've shored up some of those weaknesses, got everybody else on the team moving. Phoenix1 going to go ahead and respond to them with AShe and Jayce as their next 2 picks in his first phase.
Yeah, Jhin's still on the table, but Phoenix1 have shown that... No, sorry, the Jhin got taken away. They ended up not first picking their champion for Arrow, which sometimes they will do with the AShe being up, but this is what happens is they actually let the Jhin go over. They pick up the Elise first because that's the priority, is comfort for Meteos over everything else, and now he's able to play the other AD carry that's left.
AShe, definitely a solid choice for him, and the response from Dignitas going to be grabbing Ryze, making sure that that doesn't get banned away here in Phase 2. As we enter into the second phase, Orianna will be the first ban away from Dignitas. They don't want Keane to have to go up against that.
I wonder if they ban the Cassiopeia as well, and it seems like they're saying Zig is playing Jayce in the top lane. Zig actually a legacy Jayce player. He was playing it even before it was meta.
Back before it was cool, man.
Yeah, way before it was cool. It was kind of, every time I would talk to David Lim, who's the coach of TL, used to be the coach of Team Liquid Academy, he would say, yo, the pocket pick for Zig is Jayce, and sometimes they'll whip it out. And now it looks like it might be that top lane, but it is flexible, and I know Ryu does play it in the mid.
Phoenix1 going to ban away Camille, not wanting the Jayce to have to go up against that if they are going to be playing Jayce top. Camille, a very beyond deadly 1v1 carry style top laner.
Yeah, and Ssumday ended up playing that as well in his series last week or 2 weeks ago. And had actually great success on it too. I like what he did where he put 3 points into W, sometimes 4, and then maxed the other abilities, the Q and the E. It gave him the sustain. It actually gave him a little bit of wave clear before he got the Tiamat. So it was a really good build from him. And I tried it out afterwards because I'm kind of a Camille one trick, and it was actually
You're a Camille one trick.
It was much
now.
better than
I don't even know if I can be on the casting desk with you anymore. That's disturbing information. But Rumble and Thresh are going to be the final 2 bans.
What are you talking about? You're a Skarner one trick.
It doesn't matter, but Skarner's not a permaban champion. Either way, we got Rumble and Thresh banned away in this last part of the banning phase. They're going to deny the support pick from Xpecial. The top lane pick going to be taken off the table by Dignitas, just in case the Jayce is mid, since like you said, we're seeing it mid a lot these days. They don't want Zig being on the Rumble too.
Exactly. And Zyra being picked up here, going down to Xpecial. This was a champion that he was really, really good at in the last 2 weeks. Made a lot of picks, dominated the bottom lane, gave them the pressure they need, and I think this is a great strategy up against Phoenix1 because Adrian's going to play something like the Nami to try and actually just defend Arrow and make it to the mid game, whereas Zyra can flat out kill this lane if she lands a root, if Jhin has the follow-up, and it's quite easy to do.
Yeah, Jhin Zyra, we've seen it in the past multiple times, a very potent lane. As soon as those grasping roots find you, you can bet the Deadly Flourish is going to be following it up, and with the plants there spitting that fire at you, I feel like we see the Zyra fire skin a lot, so I just expect the plants to spit hot fire the entire time. But with those there, you take so much damage. It's really hard to deal with unless you're constantly ducking and dipping and diving away. As Kled gets locked in for Phoenix1, it's not going to be Rumble, but it is still going to be one crazy Yordle, the lizard instead of the robot.
This is crazy, though, because it's blind. He doesn't know what Ssumday's bringing to the top lane. If Ssumday has something prepared for this, then that could be a big issue. But I don't know how much people have stuff prepared for Kled.
Well, as we saw in FlyQuest's game just moments ago, sometimes the things that you aren't prepared for are the ones that can get you. Now, Kled might not be Mordekaiser Blitzcrank, but he's still unorthodox, and Poppy is going to be the answer to him from Dignitas.
Yeah. And Zig, I've talked to him a few times about Kled. Loves this champion. Actually, when he was in Korea for boot camp a long time ago, he was actually playing Kled in solo queue around the time that Kled was released around Worlds, and Smeb ran into him and got dominated. And Smeb actually started asking him about Kled and picked up Kled and almost played it at Worlds because of Zig.
Kled, he's very powerful if done correctly. I mean, everybody's ran into a Kled at some point or another in solo queue that just takes over the game. He's such a capable fighter.
Yeah, and the Black Cleaver change that you have to keep in mind, it lost 10 AD, gained 100 health, and the cost went down by 100. So it's actually about 16 gold more efficient than it was before. You can buy it earlier, you buy it faster, and it gives HP, which keeps him mounted on Skarl longer.
Because all the bonus HP goes over to Skarl, it becomes that much harder to kick him off that lizard, and then once he remounts with that much more health.
Exactly. It was a buff for Renekton and a buff for Kled. And those are the two champions that we're seeing a little bit more of here. But it is Zig on a carry top laner again. He played a few tanks yesterday, and they weren't the best performances. When he was on the Rumble, it was pretty good as well. But when he's on this Kled, this is what I like to look for, how the team engages with the ultimate.
And what I'm especially going to be looking for at Phoenix1, you and I were the ones who casted the Phoenix1 game yesterday. And in that game, we were talking about how at the end of the day, from that Phoenix1 and CLG series, one of those teams was kind of going to have the wind taken out of their sails a little bit. They were on a 2-0 week in week number 5. Somebody had to lose, and it was Phoenix1. So now, are they going to be able to recover from that? Is this going to be their rebound, their recovery, or is this going to be a downward spiral from a 2-0 into a 0-2?
Yeah, and that's the question. Is it going to be them going down, or is it then going to be recovering from it? Because it was a 3-game series yesterday, but I think that's one of the hardest series to actually take away and look at from a coach perspective, because Meteos wins the first game for them in about 24 minutes. They smash them. Game 2, they lose because of Meteos in about 26 minutes, and they get smashed. And then the last game, it was macro shot calling in the late game. So you had one example where your early game was really good and you snowballed. One example where your early game was bad and you got snowballed on and couldn't stop and couldn't play defense. Then you have an example where you got to that point where people were even, and then your macro game sucked and you ended up losing off of 2 really bad calls. So what do you practice? What do you actually focus on? Because it's kind of like everything went wrong and right at the same time in a series.
A lot of different feedback kind of coming in there because you're looking at the successes compared to the failures, and they're both so far at opposite ends of the spectrum. You don't really know exactly what to do with that at some times. But one thing I was actually very thankful for with that series, and I talked about it to people yesterday who asked about, like, oh, what'd you think of the cast? How do you think it all went? And I just said I was so glad that game number 3 was the close game, because it's always fun to have a series that goes like that, where the third game, the decider, really is the decider. It's not just the one-sided match.
Yeah, it's so strange as well, because I feel like we see a lot of game 3s that are similar to that, because people are playing on the defensive. They had a game where Meteos invaded, died. They had a game where Xpecial invaded, died. So both junglers were kind of like, okay, no more invading. None of this crap. Let's wait until we get a little bit scaled up. Let's play to our win condition for the early parts, play to the right lanes. Don't take anything risky, right? And I think that that really affects you in a series where it goes 3 and people have made mistakes on both sides. Because then they're like, I don't want to be the dude who makes the same mistake again and then gets completely just destroyed for it.
Yeah, nobody wants to be that guy. One thing that I'm going to go ahead and update you guys on right now, the little bit of a delay is being caused by some mouse settings for Zig. That should be taken care of in just a couple of minutes, so we'll be jumping into Summoner's Rift as soon as we possibly can. But going into this game, you know, we're talking about what's on the line. We're talking about where these teams are going to be going. Week 6 of the LCS Spring Split means after this, we're over halfway done.
We're 2/3 of the way.
Whoa, we're halfway there. And these guys got to be concerned about where they're at. 4th place compared to 7th place. One's comfortably going to playoffs. The other one is barely not, based on current standings. So a couple of wins, a couple of losses, a close game that could have gone either way could be the difference between you going to playoffs or not.
Yeah, and all of the teams, when I look at them, I'm like, you know, they could kind of slide into playoffs, right? You were looking at the bottom of the standings, like TL with Piglet mid. Now they actually are, you know, 3 wins and they're climbing up the standings. 4 gets you into the place that Dignitas is right now. And then Envy, they actually looked pretty good against FlyQuest at the start of that series. So you can't take any of these wins for granted. There's no free team right now in the NALCS that you can just push over and bully. And that's why the standings, there's about like 5 to 6 teams in the center that seem to be anybody could be anybody on any given Sunday.
And that's a really fun prospect for us as viewers and casters and people just watching the whole thing from afar. But if you're one of the teams kind of in that melee, if you're one of the people in the mix there, that means you've got to bring your A game every single time. You can't sleep on anybody. You can't be like, oh, this is going to be a free one. We'll just take this as kind of a practice week, maybe play something really unorthodox and strange and hope that it works. You at least got to have a plan behind it. Like the Mordekaiser and the Blitzcrank plan, they were talking about it for FlyQuest. They were saying, look, we knew we wanted to do that. We knew that they probably wouldn't be people probably wouldn't be experienced at it. We're innovators. We're comfortable with this. So I'm looking to see what kind of plans, what kind of strategies everybody ends up breaking out for this. Do you go for something risky? Do you try something new to get that extra win for yourself and pull away from the pack a little bit?
Well, I mean, we're seeing a lot of comfort here for P1. Adrian is playing once again a sustained support. Xpecial is playing a support that's going to be aggressive and actually played to his style. Lod is once again on the Jhin, which seems to be one of his best champions currently. And then you also have Kled in the top lane for Zig. And like Zig, he's now just coming back to stage. He's actually been, you know, backstage, mouse issues apparently, and fixing mouse settings. But I think he's probably like sacrificing to the Kled god. You know, get ready for the game.
Kled for the Kled god, Skarl for the Skarl throne. Hopefully it works out well for him because it's a lot of fun to see that champion go off and do some crazy things. Kled was honestly the first, and I still believe the only champion that I ever laughed out loud when I heard his voiceover lines, because they're like, this is a joke. This is some kind of a prank. And they're like, no, this is his actual voiceover.
Yep.
I love the personality of the champions. Just
he's
classic,
troll.
Man.
He's pretty troll.
Yeah, he's pretty troll.
I love the stuff where they showed who his enemies were, and it was everybody except for Skarl, and Skarl was his only ally, and even Kled was on the enemies list.
So he's his own enemy. They list every champion in the game
as
so
Kled's
true.
Enemy. It's so true, because he's always going to jump in. He's always somebody. That's the thing, is like this champion was designed that when he goes in, he doesn't really have a whole lot of ways to get out unless you set up a joust perfectly. So when he goes in, somebody's dying. It's you or it's him.
The only way out of a fight once you're Kled is stepping over the dead bodies.
Yeah.
That's it. You take everybody down around you, you walk away, you're going to be fine. Otherwise, you might just ride Skarl into certain doom. But we are finally on to Summoner's Rift for the first time today in this best of 3 between Phoenix1 and Dignitas. Seeing who's going to walk away with the victory on this one. Looks like everybody's going to be fanning out before they even make it out of the base to take those defensive postures and make sure nobody does anything too wonky at level 1.
Yeah, and you can see Dignitas' fan is actually just 5 individuals completely right into place, whereas P1's looks like not going to actually protect their top side of red. That's actually pretty risky that nobody went there. Usually your mid laner or support will go there, so they're probably looking for some type of, they're looking for an invade to get vision and to figure out where the jungler is starting, because they weren't actually putting anybody on their bottom side. Now look at that, Ssumday.
Ssumday just creeping himself in there, dropping a ward down to get some vision over that area as Adrian wins out in the level 1 exchange against Xpecial, showing off why Nami's so good in the laning phase.
Yeah, it's those trades just back and forth, simultaneously healing and actually dealing damage. Jhin can't really do that, can't kill him.
No, not quite fast enough on that very slow, completely capped attack speed. Can't clear the ward out in time, so both sides going to have vision on the other side's blue buff as they start these clears. Looks like both junglers looking to start on the top side of the map this game.
Interesting as well, because you can see P1 prepared for both a jungle start on the top side of red and also for Raptors. But both teams are going to have full information of where these junglers start. And I think for P1, they did that because Chaser, like I had said earlier, had the really innovative 2-minute and 31-second gank to top side as he was level 3, because he got so much assistance from Ssumday. And I think P1 are a little scared of that, because this was a snowball top laner in Zig, in that Kled.
Arrow getting some good trades onto Lot and Xpecial nice and early. And you see what Adrian is able to do just walking up. He casts the wave onto Arrow. It bounces right back onto their opponents as well and just makes the trades that much more difficult to deal with. So Jhin and Zyra not having too fun of a time for the time being as Zig lands a couple of auto attacks onto Ssumday.
Yeah, and I want to talk about Kled a little bit because I think the ecosystem is perfect for him now, and Zig really enjoys it because the Black Cleaver got buffed in a way that helps him a lot. The W changes actually helped him a lot, and Ssumday actually hit level 2 first, so he gets to hit him against the wall and get some free damage there.
Almost dismounts him.
Yeah, almost. It seems like a little bit of a miscalculation there on the part of Zig.
Not quite expecting those minions to die as they did.
Yeah, returning to the Kled point though, the buffs to the Black Cleaver, or changes I guess, ended up being buffs for him. The Fervor of Battle buffs, where he retains it for 2 more seconds, was good. And then also on top of it, the change to the W, where it used to actually have a bug with it where if you started the auto attack, you get the really fast one, and if you canceled it on a minion, it would actually put the full ability on cooldown. So if you were doing what most people do and like canceling on a minion and all that, you have to dedicate yourself to the attack or you start the W. But that's
going to go ahead and get the exhaust out of Keane here very early. Both these guys around half HP, but without that summoner spell up, that might be something that ends up getting some aggro here in the mid lane. As Meteos is going to know that that gank might be a little bit more successful. The gank might come in, but you got to be careful. The dismount is something that can really make these ganks go awry. Zig trying to keep himself alive. A little bit more damage onto Chaser. First boom! Can he make it too? He's almost remounted, but Ssumday is going to be denying that one real quick. 1 for 1.
Woo! The flash and the Q. Ryu's looking to pick it up afterwards.
Accelerated shock blast. He's got those juicy double buffs he wants to cash in on, and he brings down the hammer. Ssumday goes down, and Ryu makes it a 2-for-1 game.
Yeah, but that was huge in the top side. That's the flash out of Ssumday. Chaser does go down, and it ends up being the first kill going over to Zig, so he gets a little bit more gold in his pocket.
Zig did a great job with that, making sure he bought himself enough time, and that's what I was talking about with Kled. He's so slippery.
I would also say Ssumday did a bad job because he doesn't W until after the joust, and that doesn't matter then. So he should have done that way earlier to just cover options, or he should have done it to counter because that's enough time. Poppies are able to W on reaction to Lee Sins, to people being right in front of them. You know he's going to joust if one of his options is pretty much his only option at that point to try and survive.
Ryu comes in, cleans that one up for himself, and now double buffs on Jayce. That's a scary prospect.
Oh yeah, and the fact that he had already gotten the exhaust out of Keane and has his own still, has his summoners, could be bad. That was interesting. They actually put Zig mid to cover and shove the wave out in the time that he was waiting for Ryu to back and then get to mid.
Just walking himself back up top now, going to go ahead and pick up an extra Doran's Blade, so some more laning strength for him, but it's also going to be denying real items a little bit longer.
Yeah, but you need that strength just to propel yourself into that mid game. It is going to be shoved in on him. He's actually behind Ssumday right now in CS, behind in experience. So he has to play a little bit more defensive for a bit here as the wave gets pushed in on him.
Totally understandable. Some games you just aren't allowed to live that dream of rushing straight for the first big item. The baby steps are how you get there. As Meteos going to be skritting around here in the river, seeing if there's any opportunity to find anything as he heads into enemy territory. Chaser a level down.
The Meteos Classic here, looking in, and you can see he has an idea. Oh, Blast Cone!
Taking the Blast Cone, looking to find an opportunity to land that Cocoon. Bottom half, Chaser having to jump over the wall to get himself away from this one. Meteos has completely removed the enemy jungler from the equation, so now Arrow and Adrian can feel very comfortable pushing up.
And you can see that everybody was ready for that on P1 side, and so the communication for Phoenix1 around Meteos' invade seemed to be quite good. It's how they got a lead against CLG in their first game, is they just kept constantly invading with Meteos. They had mid-pressure right against the turret. And there you go, on react.
There's the block. Oh, the second part of the bear trap on a rope doesn't actually connect.
It's so hard to actually connect it because the tether range gets shorter the longer it's on him. So right before it goes off, you have to be like pretty close.
You want to keep him close, right? That's the whole point of the bear trap on a rope.
Yeah. Oh, Arrow's gonna take a big chunk.
Arrow eating a lot of damage, but Lod gonna be taking quite a lot in return as well. Both those AD carries gonna be feeling the pain, but the difference is one can be healed up by his support, the other cannot. Ryu trying to put some damage onto Keane here in the mid lane yet again.
Yeah, Arrow also purchased Boots for potions, so he has a lot of sustain. Now there's a TP all the way in the back. They're trying to kill Lod. They're looking for the bottom lane domination. Here comes Kled.
Coming in from Phoenix1. Kled's already worked his way into the fight. Xpecial going to be the target here at the start. Bear trap on a rope, pulling him right back into the fight. Flash away. Xpecial still barely alive. Meteos looking to make it happen. Rappel up into the air. Comes down with the spider bite. Phoenix1 have found themselves one, but can they get Meteos out? I think they can do it. Lod does not have curtain call available to try to make some kind of a snipe here. And Meteos will live another day.
Yep, Meteos gets out afterwards, and that's the bottom lane being focused by Phoenix1. Zig comes down. He actually tanks the turret until he dismounts, which is the right thing to do. Tank as many shots as you can, and then you'll drop aggro when you drop Scarl, and they'll get first turret here. They just have more people on it on Phoenix1's side.
There you go, Phoenix1. They make the trade. It works out in their favor. They've got a 3-to-1 advantage. And once that top lane turret goes down, Dignitas takes that to equalize the objective count. They're still going to be up about 1,000 gold.
Yeah, but where is that gold? Ssumday's going to get a little bit more here for himself because he's got solo turret gold, whereas the bottom is split. And if you remember, the turret gold was actually reduced for global gold globally on the first turret, but the local went and stayed about the same.
Ryu was going up there thinking about maybe stopping those guys, seeing if they were still hanging around, but then decides to double back, gets himself away from that. Sometimes walking into Elise and a Poppy can be a bad decision, and he didn't want to be walking down that line.
Yep. And it's interesting as well, because now these back timers are staggered. Ryu's now going to take it back, but they weren't able to secure a blue buff for themselves on Phoenix1 side. Dignitas took the Phoenix1 blue buff on the top side of the map, and they'll be able to secure theirs on the bottom, because Phoenix1 took the bottom turret, and then they ended up having to back. They couldn't take control of that eastern jungle, take the blue buff, or even get the Infernal Drake, which would have been the ideal scenario there, but they decide not to.
I'm really happy to see this Infernal Drake being Drake #1 again, because that means teams are going to be motivated to fight over him. Yeah. You get the Cloud Drake. We talked about it yesterday. It's not nearly as fun. People won't kill each other over it. They won't end up accidentally killing themselves over it, but Infernal, you just throw yourselves into the meat grinder to get that thing. So hopefully we'll get to see some action towards that here soon with the first turret blood already taken off the table 9 minutes in. That means that other objectives are now going to be open for possibility, including that Drake. Keane with his blue buff going to be a bit more difficult to deal with than a Ryze without one. Makes a lot of use out of that.
Yeah, right now though is the time for Dignitas to look for a play with the TP that Ssumday has. He's actually up in the top lane, 10 CS. He has a level advantage slightly, and he has the teleport, so he has the summoner advantage. If Dignitas want to take control of the bottom side of the map, now's the time to do it, because Arrow's going to keep looking for picks. He's going to do what he does all the time. Phoenix1 will put wards down in the bottom right side of mid in this area, and then they'll keep looking for arrows down the mid lane to try and get control of it. Kled has ulti.
All right, the arrow's not going to find its mark, but Zig's still looking to make the move. There comes your tidal wave. Keane's going to be the target. Exhaust goes down, and Keane is done. Curtain call opens up, but P1's already been able to find themselves one. Can they make it two? Bullets are going to be sidestepped all over the place. The last one goes real wide left. Zig's going to be the counter kill as Adrian finds himself behind enemy lines. Fish out of water. Slammed up into the wall. Brought down, but Chaser goes with him. A nice shot by Ryu.
Yep, 2 for 2 overall. They did get the teleport out of Ssumday too. So honestly, P1, I think they come out a little bit on top in terms of summoner trades and how they actually played the fight. But this does give Dignitas advantage to get this side of mid to take out these control wards and reestablish a little bit of that control around the Infernal Drake.
P1 just shows no fear right now. That fight went down in between 2 enemy turrets, and they still came out on top.
And that's the beauty of what he does on, or what Zig does on Kled, is he will ulti just to start the fight, to go in, even if it's under a turret, because he knows he will drop aggro when he drops Skarl.
It's a guarantee. It's not like something that you might accidentally mess up. Maybe you don't walk too far out of the range. Maybe you keep it a little bit longer than you thought you would. It will guarantee drop.
Yep. And so the flash comes out at the arrow, and that's perfect, because now he doesn't have anything to get away from the rest of it. The Nami wave's going to hit true. Zig is going to hit true. Goes through. He gets exhausted, and then walks through. Gets dismounted. Aggro swaps to arrow. And then right here, Meteos almost gets killed there. That last shot from Vlad maybe could have picked up somebody else ahead of time, but then they're just completely sectioned off. Dignitas had an opportunity to get a little bit more there and not lose as much too. Chaser didn't have to stay around.
Yeah, Ryu did a really good job of making sure that that went even at the end because they knew Adrian was going down. He was just stuck. There was no way to get him out. So the last possible option is to make that a 1-for-1 on the back end of the fight as the Drake goes down to Dignitas. And that first Infernal in their pocket, going to be a nice damage bonus.
Yeah, Dig ended up doing a really good job there of taking control of that area. Like I was saying, they got the mid priority, they got the right-hand side, they were able to take out all of those control wards from Phoenix1 and replace them with their own, and it seems like Phoenix1 didn't contest at all, let it go, even though it's kind of strange because Ssumday doesn't have teleport, so Ssumday had to show up, and Zig, what I saw was he was back when that Infernal Drake was taken, so it doesn't look like they were even thinking of contesting it.
One thing I want to go ahead and comment on that you're noticing here with the items right now, a very similar difference to what we saw yesterday between Meteos and Xpecial is the fact that this game is challenging Smite versus Tracker's Knife again. So extra combat potential for Meteos versus extra ward potential for his opponent as Ssumday going to be jumped on, repels that spider bite, gets himself out.
And yeah, so he goes for the damage here. He's not so much going for the utility. I feel like Meteos, he gives vision of the enemy jungle by invading the jungle.
He's
walking
the ward
in, and he forces you out. So he has more combat stats. It's always like a different kind of ideology of the jungles. All right, yeah. First things first is pressure, then vision. And some people are like, no, you get vision to get pressure. And that's what Tracker's Knife does. Is it's like if either your champion is really strong by itself, and then you end up going in and you can get the vision just like Elise would. Or you're like, okay, I need to be able to duel the guy, and then he can't contest me for vision at all, and I have priority in his jungle. But yeah, Lee Sin's will always take Tracker's Knife, by the way.
Well, yeah, I mean, Lee Sin's one of the few champions that actually does get an in-combat value out of the Tracker's Knife because of how you can ward hop and always have a couple of those ready to go. Kind of alleviates the old need where before the advent of these jungle items, you would see Lee Sin's build Sightstone very frequently.
Feels bad.
Feels real bad, man.
I mean, it felt great to have so many to jump to, but
at the same time, you're Lee Sin. You didn't want to be building support items.
Yeah. We'll keep track of what he keeps as his trinket because most Lee Sins actually stay with the warding totem. They don't actually swap over to the Oracle's lens, and they don't sweep anything out. Most do that.
See if Chaser ends up going for that or if he does go for more of the offensive style of vision focus with removing those wards from his opponents. But right now he's hanging around the bottom side, not going to be finding anything just yet except for that control ward.
And I will say, though, when the Lee Sins don't take the sweeper, it actually lowers your pick potential because it's only your support that's sweeping and denying vision. So it has to be a damn good sweeper, a damn good value, too, to kind of have your team around you sweep and, like, run through and have them all kill the wards for you.
Yeah, you pretty much have to make the sprint through the area as everybody else just mops them up as fast as humanly possible. Some sort of ward-clearing speed run. But Ssumday going to be zoning Zig away from this wave in the top side. Has himself about a 10 CS advantage.
Speaking of pick potential here, especially in the bush, Ryu, they don't have a tank, so they have to face check this now.
Ryu's going to be close, but he doesn't get caught out by the grasping roots. Instead, now it's going to be Ryze making some damage on him, but he brings back the killing spree into the face of Keane. Chaser into the back line, not going to be finding anybody. Ryu's kept alive by the Nami heals, and that is a 2-for-1 play for Phoenix1. A botched engage from Dig.
Oh, looking for the cocoon there, almost gets Lod. And that was actually a little bit strange from, I would say, Chaser. It looks like he wasn't completely confident in his ability to actually pick somebody off there and then get the disengage and get out. When we see the replay again, Chaser had an opportunity to take a Q and kick back Ryu into the team, and Ryu was flashless at the time. So decided to not go all in on it, and it looks like it was either a miscommunication between him and Xpecial on what they wanted to accomplish, but there were definitely more members of Phoenix1 there.
Zig now left alone in the top side to shove that minion wave up. And here's kind of a replay of how that catch didn't work out.
So the Q is actually going to hit Adrian. Adrian flashes. You take the Q there. You can kick Ryu into your team. He has no flash. And then you kill him. And he doesn't have the opportunity to kill Keane. You deal an extra bit of damage to him with the kick. And you're able to pick that up. But Chaser looks like he didn't go for the jugular there. Didn't actually trust that the flash was still down. I'm unsure.
Instead, he kicks Arrow, which ultimately just ends up blowing an extra summoner spell from Xpecial, making him have to flash over the wall, or Arrow would have killed him.
Yeah.
So, not just a mistake, but a very large mistake from Chaser there. Ends up costing his team even more in what was already a costly engagement. Puts Dignitas now down almost 2,500 gold 16 minutes in. Next Drake spawning in a little over a minute. So if P1 is able to maintain control over the map like they are right now, taking down this Tier 1, they should have easy control over that area.
Yep. And they take down that Tier 1, like you said. Now they have all those Tier 1s down, except for the top one, except for the Kled one. He'll work on it slowly. Black Cleaver completed. Does build out of a Kindle Gem now instead of the Caulfield's Warhammer. We saw that in the inventory. That's what that was for.
It's a very good thing that he's got that up and running now, too, because if you look at Ssumday's inventory, armor, 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 potions, mana.
I would definitely recommend this build against the team that is all physical damage save for the Elise, who is going for a Proto Belt next.
So it is going to be some big damage coming in from the Elise. This isn't a tank Elise type of a build this game around, but it's still not nearly as much of a damage threat as Kled, Ashe, and Jayce put together.
Exactly. But I would say when you're playing against an Elise, you're fine as a tank building full armor, maybe one mixed resist item like a Guardian Angel, but your HP should be your buffer against spells from Elise because she just has such a long cooldown between the spells that she'll throw out the Q, she'll throw out the W, she doesn't have a damaging E, and then you're just getting kind of nibbled on, right? And I don't think an Elise has enough damage to kill a Poppy in almost any universe.
Right, she's not something like a Syndra that if it's got max AP is just going to delete you anyway. She's still a very capable duelist, a very capable fighter. She can pick off squishy targets, but I don't exactly see Poppy in my mind when I imagine the word squishy.
No, not even. And when she gets low, she's even tankier because of her passive on the W. Extra resist.
Everybody likes free stats, right?
That depends on who you are. If you're playing against
if you're the guy that's against Poppy, it's kind of annoying, but if you're the guy that is Poppy, it is Christmas every day. As Ocean Drake goes down, P1 going to grab that one, no contest. Drake count is tied up 1-1 now, and the next one's going to be Ocean 2.
Yeah, Phoenix1, they've actually had wards on the bottom side of the map, and they've been just utilizing those for the time being. But what's going to happen now is they're going to start playing to the top side of the map. These control wards, I believe, will be repositioned towards where Rift Herald is and where Baron will be in about 2 minutes, and they'll start taking over the top side. They'll push through mid, they'll put Jayce on the top, and then they'll start actually taking control of the top mid jungle.
And it's good to see these kind of macro movements and decisions coming out from Phoenix1 after we talked about that series yesterday ending mostly because of macro mistakes in game number 3. Phoenix1 is saying, look, we recognize what went wrong, we recognize what was bad, we're trying to fix it.
Yeah, and I think the weakness for P1 there wasn't so much like playing it by the textbook, oh, this is what we do for the first 20 minutes of the game. It was the point after the 20 minutes, the high-stakes decision-making, the instantaneous, what is your instinct to go for after you pick up 2 kills? Is it the Baron? Can we do the Baron with no tank, etc.? And that's what they needed to work on there was how long do we fight? When do we stop fighting?
Very true. We'll have to see if they can work on that as well as the time approaches closer and closer towards that mid-game point. 19 minutes in now.
This is actually really good from Zig. Zig, actually, when I watch Zig on a mini-map for like an entire game, he plays so well around what his team is doing on the other side of the map. Elise is top side. You're always at a numbers disadvantage. Pretend the jungler is there, even if you don't have vision of that area, and then you play out until, or you play back until you see the jungler. So right now, he's actually playing up because they're just trying to force this for pressure. Chaser's actually inside the jungle, getting this red buff and taking it away. So he's maximizing his time and doing what he can. But this is really risky from Zig. He's going into the jungle, trying to scout here, kind of using his body as just a ward. This is super risky, though.
Not going to be running into anyone just yet, but him staying down here and the opponent not responding topside means P1 got the final outer turret.
Oh, he's looking for an ulti towards mid to go for this turret.
Might be able to zone them away. Xpecial going to be eating the cocoon. Empowered Shock Blast comes in, but it's not going to be finding enough damage to kill him or anything. Just does hurt him significantly.
Yeah, it pushes everybody off of that mid lane turret, and I like this combination because they're using the Jayce, and for poke, they're using the Ashe arrow for engage, and then they're also using Zig's ultimate for engage when somebody is squished down. I was going to say squishy started, it didn't quite work out, but yes. Now I'm casting my own cast.
That
Started that sentence,
meta.
didn't quite work out.
That is
We'll see
meta.
next time.
All right, we'll have to see if we can manage to come up with some better words next time around. Maybe construct an entire paragraph.
Talk to my coach.
For the time being, it's going to be a blue buff stolen away by Phoenix1. Putting that extra regeneration and cooldown onto Jayce and depriving Ryze of it is going to be a nice difference between the two.
Yep. Being able to secure those blue buffs against the Jayce, who both of them are actually, or with the Jayce, crucial because they're both trying to stack up tiers. They're both trying to hit those mid-game power spikes and turn them online. And see, Ryze at 470 and Ryu's at about 380 on his tier. So Ryu about 100 behind, but that's to be expected with the infrequency of his cooldowns. You can't actually just swap between forms and kind of just keep hitting the W for free stats.
Yeah, you can't just spam as much anymore, so it makes things a little bit trickier. Either way, 3-0 and 2 compared to 0-2 and 1. I think he's going to be okay being a few tier stacks down when he's feeding off of the tiers of Keane's KDA.
The tiers, all the tiers. Well, it'll get to that point eventually. We'll see, though, because Dignitas, they're not out of this game by any means.
No. 3,500 gold, 21 minutes in. Yeah, it's something you got to work against. It's kind of a wall that you're pushing against, but it's not something that's just going to be an avalanche and bear down on you.
Yeah, but Ssumday is ahead in CS and experience. He's going for an Iceborne Gauntlet next, so he's going to actually do a lot of damage to a full squishy team that has no tank. Kled is a bruiser. And we'll see here, looking for a pick on Meteos.
They're able to find him. The kick comes through. Repel comes up, lands on the other side of Keane. It's not going to be enough. They squish the spider. Shutdown credit goes over to Chaser.
Ryu topside though, immediately going to try to get something back. You're going to try to use the Jayce with the auto attack reset on the W to try and get that turret ASAP. And then it becomes a worth trade, but you can't lose anything else there. And Ssumday's going to look at that bottom side as the rest of Dignitas will look mid.
Jayce is a very effective champion at taking those turrets down rapidly. There you see him able to do it as Zig, Arrow, and Adrian hold on to this mid lane tier 1. Now they've got a 4-to-1 turret advantage, doing a great job in the objective game.
Yep. Ryu from behind, throwing some poke down.
Just a couple little cheeky ones, not really able to do a whole lot of anything else considering Kled is going bot lane. Meteos just now back alive, coming out of the base to rejoin the team. But a good pick came out there from Dignitas, recognizing the opportunity to go with that. The flash kick from Chaser finds the mark.
Yep. And on the bottom side of the map, Ssumday, he will get this turret, I believe. There's just too many minions, and he does a lot of damage. We'll see.
Zig's gonna bring him back. Looking to force the fight. He's got the cleaver, he's got the pieces of the Titanic Hydra, and he keeps the turret alive.
Yeah, even with the Sheen, not able to get it there for Ssumday. And Zig pushes him out, forces him out. That's actually a big win. That's, oh, sure, it's 99 health, but that's still not that gold going over.
Yeah, that's the gold not in enemy pockets. Whether it's standing with 1 or 1,000 HP,
Yep.
the turret still stands.
Oh.
Arrow fired off. Lod going to be sidestepping that one. Not too difficult to do so, but the mid lane tier 2 falls. The P1 turret count goes up to 5, and the gold leads at about 4.5K.
Yeah, P1 are actually pressuring off of back timers on top side of the map. They were able to actually see Xpecial and Chaser both go top on that control ward that's in that top brush near the Baron. And then they just all pushed mid, and they were able to pick up that turret because they just take it so quickly.
Speaking of Baron, remember, 24 minutes into the game, we're getting into that point where if a big fight should happen and you're close enough towards him, he could be the prize. Both teams need to keep that in mind, as now Phoenix1 going to be looking for Drake number 3 overall this game, the second one that their team will be claiming. It'll be the second Ocean, so plenty of extra regeneration for these guys should they.
Yeah, Ssumday's not there. They might go. There they go.
They're pulling the trigger. Kled issuing that horn. He sounds the alarm. The cavalry charge is coming, and Keane is going to be jumped on. They go right into the fight. Stranglethorn's going to be finding 2. Meteos jugging around. Knocked down. Chaser grabbing the kill onto him. Zig going to be soaking the bullets next. 4th shot hits him. There comes the crits. Ssumday getting himself right back into the fight. Slams him up against the wall. Ssumday takes that kill. It's a 2-for-0. Dignitas grab the fight.
Exactly. What was I saying about, look at that. This game is not over by any means. Dignitas still in it because Ssumday able to turn it around a bit, and they actually blow up Meteos. They are so squishy on Phoenix1's side. They have to get this poke down.
Dignitas have decided to go for the Baron, down to about 1/3 HP. Phoenix1 has to make some kind of a stop here. Xpecial going to be taken low. Ssumday going to be targeted now. Baron been secured. Dignitas now looking to make their exit if they can. Ryu going to be chased down. Ssumday's got the damage and the shields to make it happen. Chaser right back into the fight, this time on Arrow. Lod grabs the kill.
And they didn't lose anybody there on Dignitas' side. That's 5 Barons. They played that so well in a situation where it could have been really bad. Looked like Xpecial was about to die. Ryu misses a shot blast that would have been fatal on him. And the rest of it, they're able to actually pick up the Baron, and Dignitas back in this game. And they'll get more money off of this because they have turrets that they still need to take, like that mid and bot one.
There's so much standing gold on the map right now for Dignitas. This Baron power play has the potential to balloon like crazy.
Yeah, and that, once again, Phoenix1 is talking about when is it the time to fight? When can you fight? That was the problem with their game against Counterlogic Gaming, was they didn't know exactly when to fight, how long to fight. Because what happened there was Zig locked on to locked on to Keane, Keane flashed away, and then the rest of the team is disengaged by Xpecial's ultimate.
Now Dignitas has no problem taking down these outer turrets. There's the first one. Game gonna be less than 1,500 gold apart now compared to the 4.5k they were just a couple of minutes ago. That is looking a lot better for them. Zig hanging out in the bottom river. Phoenix1 still looking for maybe any kind of a chance to do something here if they can catch someone out. Zig always on the flank looking for a way to get in there with the charge, but he's got to be careful. Ryu going to be slammed over the wall, into the other wall. Here comes the rest of the damage. Lod's going to be caught out next. Arrow able to find some damage there. Zig into the back line. Lod's going to be melted. Phoenix1, they've gone 1 for 0. Chaser makes his way into the fight. Only going to be finding Sonic Wave onto a minion. Bottom lane tier 1 turret falls to the minions at the same time, but Dignitas lose their AD carry.
Yep, Ssumday looked like he was trying to get a pick there onto Ryu, but not enough damage to follow up there. This will be actually very hard for Phoenix1 to continue to siege because this is just Baron buff. They're going to be able to just keep pushing these out. A wave clear not incredibly strong as well from Phoenix1. They're going to have to rely on the Titanic Hydra, the Titanic Hydra as well as the Brunance Hurricane.
Yeah, those Baron minions are just such a pain to have to put the damage into. Phoenix1 shoving the wave up, but they'll go no further.
Chaser looking for a kickback.
Chaser could find the opportunity to come around the side here. They might be able to make something work, but they've got to keep in mind that Lod just now respawned, so his only contribution to the fight would be a curtain call, and it would still be late. Dignitas just decide that they don't want anything else to do with this. They're going to go back to pushing now that they've got all 5 members up again. They've still got about 1/4 of the Baron buff, 1 minute overall left to spend with this, and they'd like to grab another turret or at least set themselves up in a decent spot by the end of that.
Yeah, but they got all of those outer turrets. They got the easy money. They had to dig deep for the rest of these. And that's going to come off of side wave manipulation because Jayce is on the bottom side. The rest of Dignitas go top mid.
One interesting thing that I'm noticing here too, Meteos' next item completed, Zhonya's Hourglass on the Elise, so now he has 2 aggro drops.
Yeah, he wants to be less squishy because what happened was Ssumday blew up pretty much the whole team as a Poppy.
Yeah, it's kind of a problem when the enemy full tank is also just destroying people with damage. Makes things a little bit hard to process, kind of have to itemize against that somewhat, even if you don't want to.
And what I love is the itemization of Dignitas. Sure, you may not want to have to buy certain items, but they're up against an all-AD team, save for Meteos. Ninja Tabi across the board. 4 of their members. AD Carry has it. Ryze has it. Lee Sin. Poppy.
The only person without it is Zyra.
Exactly. The AD Carry has it as well, and there's an early item for him too. And I think that Jhin can do this pretty much no problem. Jhin and Ezreal, because their boots really don't make too much of a difference in terms of their combat ability. But survivability, it definitely goes up. And we've been seeing in the LCK that this is the boot of choice right now for AD carries, because how are you going to die in an all-AD comp? You're probably going to die to physical damage.
Yep. That's all that's going to be happening, so you might as well stop it however you can when you don't need the attack speed anyway, like you said. Who cares? Just grab the Ninja Tabi, negate some of that damage, negate some of that burst, keep yourself alive, prevent the one-shot, and hope that you can keep things going, hope that Kled makes another charge into the back lines and the team can't close the distance behind him. As P1, with the Baron buff gone from their opponents, have now again sort of taken control of the tempo here, pushing up into enemy territory, pings coming out where they want to ward as they move towards the Drake that's going to be spawning here in 30 seconds. It will be the last Elemental Drake.
Yeah, but it will be a Mountain Drake that'll increase the time, decrease the time that it takes to actually do the Baron. 4 turrets, and look at that, Dignitas not interested. They're like, yeah, there's like 30 seconds until that Mountain Drake's up.
Phoenix1 seeing if they can maybe find something here. They don't want to just charge in.
Yeah, well, Phoenix1 have to take care of their mid wave or let it die to the turret, and that's just lost gold because they don't want to give up this position. And Dignitas was saying, you either lose this minion wave or you come and fight us because, or sacrifice the position they had on Drake, because that's what they really want, is that position.
Zig gonna be taking so much CC, just locked down for an eternity here, immediately dismounted. He loses a lot of his capabilities here, but Keane's gonna be chained CC too. He is done. Chaser goes next. Ryu running away off to the side, surely gonna be brought down. Zig has remounted a big Stranglethorn, but not big enough. Vlad falls. 4 for 3 so far, still looking to make it the ace. Zig's got the bear trap and the rope and the ace. A double kill as Lod falls and the ace comes through for Phoenix1. That Lod message was late, but it doesn't matter. Dignitas lose all 5 members. Phoenix1, they have still got a very strong Kled pushing up the mid lane, looking for that in-hit turret.
Yeah, there's about 15 seconds on Chaser, so Zig will deal with the mid lane, use the Titanic Hydra as well when he can, and the bear trap on the rope to help clear out that wave. Whereas Meteos will be doing the Drake, using a Spider Link to tank a bit. Well, not tank, actually, because it kills them all. Ew!
Oh, poor little baby Spiderlings.
Unlucky.
Mama Meteos is going to be missing those, but not for too long because he's just going to be grabbing the Drake instead. He'll feel plenty happy about that. But the enemy inhibitor line has been broken. You no longer have to have that difficulty of saying, look, we can't get through these. If nothing else, Phoenix1 knows they can try to force a fight on that.
Yeah, when you break the inhibitor turret, especially the mid one, it becomes so easy to just push mid and go for the Baron simultaneously and force the enemy to really think about it. Zig here plays this really well, but the Keane lockdown Cocoon into the ultimate from AShe. Zig gets his W on and just destroys, then uses the ultimate. Ssumday jumps back in. Ssumday actually gets hit right there by Zig's ultimate after he flashes, unable to actually finish off the people that are inside of the Stranglethorn before, and right there, that was beautiful.
Good stuff coming out from this team. They're able to find some success. Zig cutting him down. He gets so much health back when he remounts too, that's the thing.
The Titanic Hydra plus the Black Cleaver and the buffs to the Black Cleaver for Kled in particular ended up being really, really good. But the way that he actually remounted is, when you remount, you want to have your W. You think when Zig was rooted, he actually would have just started auto-attacking? Well, that's going to put his W on cooldown. You want the W for when you're dismounted, because it's 4 attacks that gives you 80 rage right there, and then you just remount after another auto.
Phoenix1 now going for the Baron, going to be grabbing that one, no problem whatsoever. The 4th Jhin bullet barely putting a dent in Zig's health bar. He's now got the Guardian Angel along with the Ninja Tabby, so some armor showing up for him. Means that 3 items of lethality for Jhin is going to be severely reduced in effectiveness.
Yep. That's what you need to do, is just make sure that you're starting to close the game out if you're Phoenix1. You're starting to put those finishing touches on it, but it's still a little bit too early to actually do that. You can start going for that inhibitor in mid. You can start going for the bottom and start looking at those areas, and maybe try to force a fight to end it a little bit sooner than if you had just gone for objectives over and over again.
Phoenix1 now with Baron. They want to make sure that they get a lot out of this. They've got an exposed inhibitor they can go for. They've still got a tier 2 turret they can go for. On the bottom side, the world's their oyster. The sky's the limit. They just got to make sure they execute cleanly and correctly here.
And that has been an issue for them, though. As you can see, they're actually just brute forcing mid down. They don't have any side waves pushing out just yet. They will push in time, but it's a long time. We're talking minutes until those side waves get there by themselves.
Yeah, this is going to be a little bit of a long, hard road for Dignitas trying to weather the storm against this Baroned up Phoenix1 team. They've got a 5,000 gold lead on top of it, feeling pretty comfortable with where they're at. They're going to be stepping forward as the front line to allow Meteos to find those auto attacks.
Somebody's looking for a TP flank. There it is, down the middle of the lane.
Ssumday wants to make the move if he can. It's all 5 members right on top of the Poppy. He's going to be soaking so much damage so very rapidly. GA is available and Xpecial is instantly killed. Ssumday's going to be going down next. Bear trap on a rope takes him right back into the fight. And Phoenix1 are looking to make it a 2 for there comes the CC and the damage. Arrows grabbing the kill. The inhibitor falls and Phoenix1 have found awesome success.
Yeah, and with a composition like this, that if armor gets stacked up to a point where it's just ridiculous, it becomes really hard to deal with it. But Phoenix1, they're playing fast. It's 34 minutes right now. It's still rather early. Elder Drake has not even considered spawning yet. They're gonna look for turrets.
Right, Poppy's not at that 5-item point, but Keane is gonna be absolutely deleted. Adrian is the trade. Chaser trying to get himself away. The damage is gonna be coming through. Both Nexus turrets down. Lod has to retreat, but it will not matter. Shot down in his own fountain, and Phoenix1 will take the game.
Great engages from Phoenix1 to start closing it out. There's one that they fumbled and almost got Dignitas back into the game. But other than that, Phoenix1 actually played rather controlled, engaged when they needed to. And that's what you like to see from them.
They had that one concern, like you said, the fight in the enemy jungle, the one where they bit off a little bit more than they could chew. The good Stranglethorn separated the team, and afterwards their opponents get the Baron. that was a little bit of a rough time. But after that, they were able to steel themselves, make sure that they stayed focused on what they needed to be. They came back and found the win.
Yeah, and there were some points where it's like, oh, Meteos is caught out by himself, and everybody's squishy, so it's a hard to execute composition because you just get blown up if they have enough damage. But it never got to that point where Dignitas were looking at a Ryze with more than 2 items. Actually, the game finishes with Keane only having Rod of Ages, Ninja Tabi, and then he has a Zhonya's with a Fiendish Codex. Oh, actually, sorry, I can't see it from here, but it's the Seraph's Embrace. So he has 3.5 items. So he's not hitting those gigantic Ryze power spikes. He's not actually blowing people up in a combination.
Yeah, we never saw people getting tapped by the 900 damage overloads, those crazy Ryze numbers that you can sometimes see come out and just be that hyper carry.
Which would have destroyed that team.
Yeah, it would have been a serious problem if they were able to get there. And like you mentioned, because Phoenix1 was able to close out so quickly, because you didn't get to 6-item Poppy, because you were able to take advantage of Kled, everything worked out.
Yeah, and they had the momentum to do so. They had the acceleration gates. They had the Ashe arrows from Arrow, and they also had the Kled ultimates from Zig, which started closing the game out for them. Those engages were what they needed.
We're going to go ahead and throw things over to the analysts now to see what they make of that P1 win.
Thank you, Captain Flowers and Zirene. Starting off this one, P1 coming out quite strong all the way through. It was a bit messy in the middle game. The fights weren't really going anybody's way. Also, turrets weren't being taken after. But looking from picks and bans, we did see some interesting things from P1's side with the first pick Elise and then ending up with Kled.
Yeah, I think the first pick Elise was pretty interesting just because you saw the Olaf ban come in for Dignitas, and I think it's something where Meteos is like, well, I can only play Elise otherwise, so I got to grab this one first. But I mean, we've seen him play Rengar and other stuff, but it definitely was a little surprising to see that taken early. I think it was great for their composition in terms of bringing some magic damage that they really needed after they finished their draft, but it was just surprising to see it right away.
I think it's definitely like, Meteos may not play super well on the meta champions, but his comfort picks he's really, really good on. So like Olaf, for instance, he's gone off on a couple games. He gets banned against him every single game now. And now Elise is one of his old comfort picks that is kind of fits well in the meta, and so that's why they just took it first.
Yeah, and I mean, the last pick, Kled, also being pretty surprising for them. This is something that I think you might start seeing a lot more out of Zig because it doesn't lose lane super hard or win lane super hard, but it does give P1 a lot of easy engages, which is something I think that they benefit a lot with because if Meteos isn't going to be on some tanky initiator, which is usually what he wants to be on, you need someone else to pick up that slack.
Yeah, and you saw like what he did. He was able to trade 1-for-1 in the 2-man dodge top lane. Of course, they played a little bit bad, but still well played by him to be able to get that trade. On top of that, the more impressive thing is their entire team coordinated together to make a dive happen bot lane. So Meteos goes in the bottom jungle, wards way behind the bot lane. Kled TP's in, Kled ults in, and it was just perfect. Like it's like the type of play that you're just like, that blows open the early game. That's a great teamwork style play.
One of the few things we saw before we actually got up to our first replay here at 20 minutes where Dig was actually able to kind of turn things back around for themselves. 2-0 plus Baron here, and you were kind of thinking Dig always kind of had that chance to get in with Lod firing from behind and making things happen.
Right, and this is one of the problems that can come in with the Kled is that when you use that ultimate, that's what you're doing. And once they acquire Keane flashes in, pulls Zig in further, and it's really hard for P1 to actually follow up on that engage, and it lets them focus down targets basically one at a time. So they get Zig off his mount, and then it's chased down through the rest of the fight. They get the 2 kills, and then, like you said, the Baron. But
and part of the reasons why it was so hard for the game to finish is because Xpecial hit some great ultis. Because Kled's initiation is you just run straight at them. Zyra is great at being able to stuff those types of initiations. She gets the linear route on like 2 people into an ulti, 2 or 3 people, and it was able to cause a lot of team fight disruption for P1.
And just touch on what you said about like the mid game being a little sloppy. It did seem like P1 started to get like a little gun shy because they weren't using the Kled ultimate too much. They had that one dive mid lane that got turned around, and then that fight as well. And then the fight that they ended up winning was actually one where Zig got caught, and what made Kled great in that fight was the fact that he could remount and then all halfway through the fight as opposed to initiating with it, which is generally how you see it used.
Right, as Scar was saying, Xpecial had some great ults, and you mentioned getting caught this time. It was more the flip side of Zig having to go in as opposed to his team already being there. We'll pull up that replay at 30 minutes here where we do see Zig get caught, but like you said, everybody's there. This wasn't a rush in, and they were able to collapse on Dig.
Yeah, I mean, you see the Kled get caught out, and this is one of the things that makes him really annoying is that he gets that untargetability during the dismount, and now his whole focus in this fight is getting his mount back up. He's able to hit the front line to get it, and then once his pass is back up, then he can use his ult to initiate the fight. And a great ult there by Xpecial, but it's not enough.
Right, look at that ulti. That's the second team fight where Xpecial hits at least a 2-man route and like a 2-man knockup, but it just wasn't able to close it out for them.
Yeah, I mean, you see number 2 on the damage graph there, Zyra. It's a little surprising to see how much her priority dropped just because her laning phase has not been as good with the free enemy champion acquisition of the plants who they're focusing. But despite that, she's still a huge threat in mid-game team fights and late-game team fights. So I'm a little surprised to see the Zyra priority drop, but I mean,
I'm more surprised at seeing the Ryze damage in this graph because it's not like Ryze didn't have a good team comp to work around. He had sufficient frontline and a way to like peel, but he still wasn't able to get out a lot of damage in any of these team fights.
Would there have been a way to kind of circumvent what Zig was providing for the team and find a way in for Dig? Was there something that they just didn't do, I should say?
I mean, I didn't really see them use a good Ryze ultimate for a lot of the game. It's true that they were losing the early game, so it's a little bit harder to find a good Ryze ultimate from behind, but generally you're trying to get people off into the side lanes, and he had enough CC in the side lanes to try and set that up. Obviously, with Elise and Poppy, if you can get your Ryze a little free from the mid lane or whatever, wherever he is, port him around the map and try and make some plays, but didn't see any of that really.
It felt like they let P1 make all the plays, and that was it. And the only time they made the like a proactive play, get the pick on the Kled. The Kled is just so tanky that they're not able to do anything to him fast
And he was
enough.
basically coming to them.
Right.
Allowing that initiative.
I mean, that's the problem that we always have with Dignitas is that they're this very reactive team and can't seem to win if the enemy team isn't making mistakes. And P1 made a couple mistakes, but not enough to actually completely throw the game.
Right.
And it feels like if that doesn't happen, Dig struggles a lot.
Well, running down the line, following up with Cavalry, they were behind Zig. Player of the game honors going to him on the Kled as he controlled the top lane, like we said, had a few outplays for himself, but overall was just the staple, the base they could get behind and get the win here.
And I love, like, the more I see out of Zig, the more I love his champ pool and his play style. He has like these really obvious meta picks that he wants to play, but then he also has the really strong pocket picks in certain situations. So like if you pick Shen, get ready for a GP. If you pick some more traditional champs, you know, he'll play the tank versus tank matchup, or he might just surprise you, with the Kled. So I mean,
the best thing is it never seems like he needs help. If he gets help, he can run with it, and he can work really, really well with his team. And that's the most important thing for me is that he just seems like a great team player, and then he works well with any comp that they devise.
All right, well, we'll have to see how they adjust coming into the next game. Phoenix1 have taken a lead in this series, but we'll see if Team Dignitas can pull it back after the break. You're watching the NALCS.
I think we are getting fat too much.
But I can't stop eating.
If we stop eating, then we stop it together. Let's show them we are diet.
Zig trying to keep himself alive. A little bit more damage onto Chaser. First blood! Boom! Can he make it too? He's almost remounted, but Ssumday is going to be denying that one. Fish out of water. Slammed up into the wall. Brought down, but Chaser goes with him. A nice shot by Ryu. A big Stranglethorn, but not big enough. Blood falls. 4 for 3 so far, still looking to make it the A's. The damage is going to be coming through. Both Nexus turrets down. Lod has to retreat, but it will not matter. Shot down in his own fountain, and Phoenix1 will take the game.